What's up, y'all? We get ready to get into this. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, we are here to talk about Cosby. I have my guest with me, Kamisha Reviews. You ready? I'm going to bring you up. Ma'am, let me take the overlay off. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Yeah, can you hear me? Question.
You're really, really, really low.
Really, really? Oh, wow! I'm right here.
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's really low.
I may have to. Let me get off of here on my iPad and come back on my computer. Let me switch out. It'll be
Okay. All right. Let me welcome everybody while Miss Kamisha comes back on. What's up, Star? Hey, Lock Queen. What's up, Tracy? Hey, Pinky Tinky, Miss Sharon, Lady V. Hey, Patino Rules, Yolanda, Ellen V, Mr. Mita Joe. All right, we got a crowd today. Hey, Dominique. Hello, everybody. So we're going to get Miss Kamisha Reviews back up here. But let me share this out and welcome everybody. So we are going to be talking about the 4-part series documentary over on the 4-part documentary on Bill Cosby that Kamau Bell produced and directed over on Showtime. I'm going to be honest. I have opinions, but I'm going to try to present the information in an unbiased fashion. And you know how we do over here in the chat. I am going to, what's up, TSF Entertainment? Thank y'all for coming over. I am going to post the link for my members. So if anybody, any of my members want to come up and share their opinions, I will be doing that. So we're going to open up the floor in a little bit, but we're going to get through some of it first, and then I'll open up the floor if anybody wants to come up and share their opinion. TSF, I'll send you the link from a male perspective if you want to join. You might be busy. I know you just got off of a live, but we, definitely be open to hearing a male perspective on this conversation once we go through some of the information. I'm trying to wait for Kamisha to come back in. What's up, Ebs? Are you out of church? Or are you home? Or are you on your way home? Or what's your situation over there? Hope you prayed for me this morning. How the song goes, somebody pray for me. That's ma'am, yes. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started because Kamisha will be back. Sometimes we just had some little... Oh, here she is right here. All right. Bringing you up, Kamisha.
All right.
Okay, that's better.
Yes, on the mic.
How you doing? How you doing today?
Oh, I am awesome. I'm happy to be here. Mama. It's been a while since I've been over here. Hey, everybody. Been a minute.
Hey, everybody. If you guys do not know Kamisha is also a YouTuber. I think most of the people over here do know Kamisha, but if not, we definitely going to make sure we drop your link. And y'all know y'all can catch me over on Kamisha's channel every Saturday afternoon, discussing Ready to Love. We get into some things, and we have a good time over there. Yes. So y'all make sure y'all come on over there and join us over there. So I was saying I wanted to watch this documentary and have a live conversation about it. And Kamisha was one of the first people to say, "Hey, I want to be a part of that." Mm-hmm. We have not discussed prior to this our opinions or our views, so this is going to all be a very candid and fresh conversation. Me and Kamisha don't agree all the time, so I'll be interested to see where we come from. Oh, that's Abby got a birthday dinner. Okay. Abby, you know what? Abby is the most introverted, extroverted person. In the last couple of weeks, Abby, you ain't been so introverted as you normally are, and I like to see it. I like it. I like to see you, leaving your domicile, child. Mm-hmm. But so there was a 4-part documentary over on Showtime, and for those, I think the first thing that struck me as interesting or that as relevant is Kamau Bell, who did the documentary. He said, listen, I'm a Cosby kid. I grew up Saturday mornings watching Fat Albert, and then my adolescent childhood was the Cosby Show, which evolved into a different world. And so my viewpoint and perspective is from somebody who grew up with the Heathcliff Huxtable version
Right.
of Bill Cosby. And I know me and you were in the same age group, so you sort of, I mean, did that hit you? Was
Yes,
that sort of
yes, it hit me. It hit me hard because, like, growing up, and did that hit you? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
okay?
It hit me hard because growing up, military kid, even though I was a military kid, Cosby Show was a staple show in our home where we watched it every, I think it was Thursday night, something like that. We
Yeah, I think
watched
it was Thursday night. Yeah.
every Thursday. We got around, and my dad used to sing, and he wanted my sister to sing, and it was always like, "I don't want you, daddy," you know, that kind of thing. And so, whenever we had the music scenes and we would join it was fun. And even though I grew up in the suburbs and I grew up with parents that, you know, had the job and all these things, it still was beautiful to see, because there wasn't a whole lot of us on TV, and a lot of it is
Right.
honestly
That
negative.
representation definitely was not
Yeah,
there.
period. And so to see that on the screen, regardless of where you were from, it was beautiful. To see them singing, it was a negative. It was fun watching a dad being there. For a lot of people who didn't experience it, I experienced it. So for me, I cherished it more because I knew how they felt. But I knew of friends who didn't experience that. And it's a hard pill to swallow. But people would look at him like that's their dad. And so I was identifying with almost everything he was saying. I was just like, wow, it was like space. My mind was going out, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, and so like that was the first thing that struck me because being in our age group and seeing it from that perspective, I really could follow along. Like the first couple of episodes of this, I think were for those of us who didn't really get the background and know where he started and understand. Like I heard things, but I mean, I certainly didn't grow up in the 60s and I wasn't old enough in the 70s to know anything that was going on. But the first part of the documentary sort of gives us this background info, right? We talk about where Bill Cosby came from and how Bill Cosby became who he was. Some of this information, I'm not gonna go episode by episode. I'm just gonna blend it together. So the early years of Bill Cosby, we know that he grew up in the projects in Philadelphia. He started off at like the best high school in Philadelphia, and then he ended up transferring to a school that wasn't quite the best, and then he actually ended up dropping out altogether and got his GED in the military. And again, that becomes important as we go through later on. When he got out of the military, he went to Temple University for a year. He got a job as a bartender, and he started telling jokes while he was bartending. Oh, thank you, Mr. Meet a Joke.
Pretty color.
Right. He started that's kind of where this started, right? So he ended up dropping out of school because his boss was like, yo, you're funny. You need to be up on stage. And he started his stand-up career. So that's sort of like, as much as like the documentary didn't get into his mother, his father, oh, he had sisters and brothers and this, they didn't really get into those details. That's basically the how Cosby got to us. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, what I was going to say was history is one of my favorite things. And so the 70s, the whole era was always like my scene, even though I wasn't, I was born in 76, but you understand what I'm saying? The culture and how we represent ourselves from the froze and how whatever. I just always fascinated with the era. So I knew of Cosby only because I researched the era so much. But I knew it was a big difference because I knew it was the Cosby in the Saturday Night, the movie that he made with, City Pointing, all that stuff. He was a completely different person. And also I looked at him as the cookie cutter. You know how when we had a rap and we had the hard rap, and then we had the, the bland, or what they call cookie cutter rap. I looked at Cosby as that, corny dude that, before I used to love the research of the 70s, and he would come up as a clean cut comedian. I didn't even translate it to him being the Cosby, the dad, because he's really, really a good actor or whatever. He's really good at what he does, that it's almost like looking at two different people that you don't even connect it. I don't feel like we connected it even until the negative started coming out. For me, even watching the documentary, I feel like even now it was like, it's almost like everybody black collectively said, you know what, I think it's time. And that's really how I looked at it when I watched the documentary, even just the trailer. I'm not sure if you felt the same way.
Yeah, I know, like, again, I heard stories, like you said, so I knew that we had these different versions of Bill Cosby. I don't know. I'll get to that when we get to that. But
Right.
yeah, I definitely had conflicting feelings about a lot of this, and I think it goes back to the fact that we are Cosby kids. So it's not that we couldn't separate Bill Cosby from Heathcliff Huxtable, but I think we wanted to hold on to that version of him.
Right.
And I know I had already started becoming a little disenfranchised with Bill Cosby even before these allegations became public because of and we'll get to that, but because of this campaign he went on about pull your pants up and attacking the single mothers and I sort of was giving him the side eye when he started doing a lot of those speeches because he sort of came for teachers, and at the time I was teaching and I was like, oh, whoa, wait a whoa.
Right.
So I felt personally attacked by him. So I already sort of was kind of not, for lack of a better word, I was already mad at him. You know what I'm saying?
But for me because I was me and my sister were so like into, and you come from the era, so I know you can probably agree or have similar stories. Me and my sister were so into the different world, because that really was for us at
absolutely.
That time.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So with the Cosby and the connection with all of that, I was just so into it where it was like, to me, they didn't have the blogs like we have now. But when Denise left the show, I was older than my sister, but I felt some type of way because I would hear stuff on a little different entertainment, and I found out she was pregnant. And so then it put me in mind, was like, okay, because I ended up having my son when I was 20, and I always feel like when a woman is pregnant, I was 20, to me, I was still kind of young. But anyway, what I'm saying is, I always feel type of way that a person would judge somebody because she's pregnant. She lost her whole thing with that role because he didn't want her to be portrayed when Debbie Allen fought for that, saying, look, let's keep her because women do get pregnant. This is 80 something, whatever, 89, whatever it was. And it's like, I looked at him differently, like, well, you're that's weird. Why wouldn't you want to? I don't know. It bothered me after that. I left a bad taste in my mouth. It really did.
Yeah, and again, it's the reality. We'll get to that part of Bill Cosby, but so Bill Cosby really rose to stardom very quickly. Like his rise to stardom was really fast. They said within 2 years, I think from 1962 to 1964, he started doing stand-up comedy, and by 1964, he was like on late night television as one of the first and only blacks at that time to be invited. I think it was the Dick Cavett show.
Yeah.
But they brought up something very interesting, and they talked about how Dick Gregory was really ushered Bill Cosby in. And because Dick Gregory refused to sort of, I'm going to say, bend to what white America wanted, because he started becoming very radical. He started becoming very much a part of the civil rights movement. We know that he was getting arrested and marching with Dr. King. They said in the beginning, Bill Cosby was sort of following in Dick Gregory's footsteps, but then somebody must have tapped on his shoulder and said,
It was a conversation.
You don't really want to go there. And he started going in the opposite direction and becoming, he never talked about race. He never spoke on racial issues, and he kept his comedy very cookie cutter. He was funny, but he wasn't edgy.
Yes, it was like the albums in the household where everybody, I can play this for the kids and the family can hear. Where before the brothers made, this is Saturday night, the kids are asleep. Let's go ahead and put Fred Sanford on and Cosby. And so, I love how you brought that up because somebody had that conversation. Now we always have those eccentric, and I know we came up from the same time period, movies where they'll say, "Oh my God, they're talking to you." Like I can remember in Willy Wonka, that bad guy was talking to the kids. Somebody whispered in Bill Cosby's ear and was like, "Look," because at the time, him and Dick Gregory, like you said, he was his mentor, but at the same time, there was competition. So it was like, "Look, do you want to be Dick Gregory, or do you want to be the blah blah blah, whatever it was that promised him?" And he made a decision. Like a lot of the kids. But it's hard to judge to a point because
I don't judge him.
Not you. I'm saying in general because from everything that's happened to him. Let me say this. As far as judgment, say, well, you made that decision. What I would say, go back to as far as all the different black people who that we are so-called embarrassed by, all the roles they took, the mammies, all these things. there always had to be a first, and those first weren't gonna be pretty because what we experienced in our past. So I'm so conflicted with the whole situation, even talking about it now, because it's like he chose that, but look what happened. He always made sure that the black schools, I'm pretty sure you'll get into it. You know what I'm saying? He always, even though he may have signed the deal with the devil, but he still will put back or do for us. I guess I can say it like that, because you might as well say the deal.
Yeah, he clearly somebody was ushering him, because very shortly after that is when he got the starring role on I Spy. And Bill Cosby became the first black man to star in a drama, like, to be have a starring role in a drama like that. And it was the total opposite of what we had. And they went through this in a documentary of what we had really seen, the black representation on TV. We had the Stephen Fetchins and the Amos and Andy's, but he was the first one. Like Bill Cosby's character on I Spy, he spoke multiple languages. He was a Rhodes Scholar. He was, a very intelligent guy. And that was the first representation we saw of that. And he may not have spoken about race a lot, but they gave him credit for really creating the industry of the black stuntman.
Yes.
Prior to Bill Cosby, they would get white stuntmen in blackface to do the stunts. And Bill Cosby was like, no, like, we're in LA. I know you can find somebody black that looks like me. So we're not doing this again. Exactly. And they talked to the guy that became his stuntman, and they have credited Bill Cosby with really breaking down that barrier and opening up the door for the whole industry of black stuntmen. So no, he may not have been out there marching with King, but he still had an impact, and he still created, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm like, I don't judge him. Everybody fights for it differently. Everybody participated in a different way. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I feel like this: if you are in a war, there's soldiers placed in different areas, and maybe you out there fighting the fight.
Fact. I like the way you said that. I like the way you said that. Yeah.
Somebody behind the scenes that is doing things also for the cause. Because at the end of the day, you look at it, we all come together, we're all going to win, because you're able to go everywhere, not just in one area. So even though he was doing what he was doing stuff for the schools, he was doing stuff for us to even just be able to, like you said, be a stuntman. And people might think, oh my God, but those stuntmen, I looked it up, they was making coins. They was up there. They were using with the celebrities. You know what I mean? It was a different way.
And I also want to say this, and this wasn't said in the documentary, but I saw the documentary for the making of, was it Sweetback's Badass Song, Melvin Van Peebles movie that he made back in the 70s. And he said that, Bill Cosby actually helped him. He ran out of money, while he was making the movie. And Melvin Van Peebles, they show it in the movie that he went to Bill Cosby, and Bill Cosby wrote him a check. And he said, Bill Cosby would tell you in a minute, I ain't marching, but I'll write a check. So he still was very much a part of the movement, because, again, contrary to the way history tries to make it look, everybody wasn't out there marching.
Come on,
you know what I'm saying? There were people, like you said. So that's why I like the way you said that. In a war, soldiers play different roles, and I think that that's what's important. Again, what's important to understand. So this was his early life, and they said in the 1960s, Bill Cosby was like the man. He was making albums, he was doing I Spy, and he was the man. Now, something else that came up in part one of the documentary, and it sort of overlaps with something else that I'm watching right now, which is The Secrets of Playboy. They talk about the influence of Hugh Hefner on black entertainment. Hugh Hefner had his Playboy Club, and he was one of the first major club owners that broke the color barrier as well. He would invite, the Sammy Davis Jr.'s, the Fred Sanfords. I mean, well, the not the Fred Sanford, but the Red Fox, the Dick Gregory's, the Bill Cosby's, and he didn't make them come in through the back door, and he didn't make them leave before, the show, as soon as their set was over, and he paid them the same amount of money that he would pay a white artist. And so, again, he gets credit for sort of opening up these doors, some of these doors for Bill Cosby as well. And we know that Bill Cosby and Hugh Hefner were really good friends, and he was at the Playboy Mansion a lot, which, again, that becomes, that comes into play later on. But in the beginning, and they brought this up on, if you guys are watching The Secrets of Playboy, they brought that up as well.
I'm sorry, what is that? Is that on A&E?
It's on A&E. It's really good, Kamisha. If you're not watching it, you need to go back and watch it.
I'm watching that thing on Netflix, but the girl that did the scandal, I'm sorry, the scamming, which is really good. But that's my next thing on my list to watch.
It's so good. It's so good. I've been reviewing that as well, but it is so good. But they did talk about that. They did talk about that. So it is so good. And again, like Melly just said, predators faking nice for the public. And that's the problem, is that so many of these people, they do these great things, and then you find out what's behind the door, and it's like, well, damn, and again, we'll get to that, but that's a valid point. It's called Inventing Anna. Is that the movie? That's the show.
Yes. Oh my God, really? I'm gonna tell you. I want to say, please. I'm literally. I was at work and I started watching the first episode because someone told me to watch. I was like, this ain't even nothing. But I tell you, I sat in my car. I'm gonna get into work 15 minutes late because I couldn't stop watching. Wait a minute, Jesus! I got to get into work.
Right, I got to work. They got me here watching this movie. All right, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Get comfortable. All I'm saying,
I don't really need to add nothing else to my to-do list. But
I'm trying to figure out. We do that together too. Because
I just got addicted to Bel Air. That is so good. But that's another conversation for another day. But it's so good.
Yes, but people chat telling you, you know what, really be? I'll do with you with that one. I'll wait till you watch it. I'm still watching it myself, so I'll wait for you to watch it. And then
all right. Give me Don't wait too long on me, but I'm gonna get to it.
I'm still in the beginning, so you still got time.
Okay, so that's kind of where the first episode sort of, it doesn't end there. So at the end of the first episode, then they start getting into the first accusations, because I think people thought, who really weren't paying a lot of attention to the case, I think people thought that all of these accusers were just coming forward in the 2000s, and that most of them were new, that these were new accusations. But at the end of episode 1, they get into the first accusers, and his first accusers start as early as 1965.
Yep.
So I'm gonna read this list to you guys.
Lord.
In 1965, 22-year-old Christina Ruhel, I'm just trying to get through these names. She said that he spiked one of her cocktails. 1966, 17-year-old Sonny Wells. Again, he gave her a drink. 1967, 18-year-old Carla Figueroa, a drink. 1969, Louisa Mort, she was in her 20s. Linda Brown, 21. Sandra Ladd, 21. Linda Treyas, 18. Joan Tashiris, 19. All of those were 1969. And again, an accusation doesn't mean it's true. I'm just giving y'all the information. I'm trying to keep my opinion out of it, okay? I'm giving y'all the information. So when a lot of people say, well, where were all these women? And they just da-da-da-da-da. Again, now they didn't go to the police. I'm not saying that they did. But these women, they did tell people. A lot of these stories were not new stories. A lot of these stories have been circulating throughout Hollywood. But again, he was Bill Cosby. And who's listening to a 20-year-old? Who's listening to an 18-year-old? You know what I mean? And it wasn't like they all knew about each other, because a lot of these stories were spread out from different places. They were in Hollywood, where he was filming I Spy. Some of them were in Las Vegas, where he was doing stand-up. Some of them were in other areas where he was doing stand-up. So these were not... Kamisha, you want me to share this? Is this...
I was just showing you going through what you're doing, timelines right here.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Let me add it to the stream. So you guys can see she's showing the timeline right there. So that was how the first episode sort of ended. We see where in the late 1960s, going into the 1970s, he started focusing on education. Ooh. In 1968, he hosted a special on CBS News called called Black History on the Straight. He received the Emmy Award for this. They also talk about he married his wife in 1964. He married his wife, and they said that she was above his station.
Yes, I saw that. Yes,
I saw that. Now, I haven't done the research on Camille Cosby, but I'm assuming they mean that you know, maybe she had gone to college, maybe she was like middle class or upper middle class, like
above his level is what they're saying.
yeah,
When you have
right.
her friends and family, not in a negative way, but they were being honest. They felt like that pretty much he wasn't on her level. He's very educated. And I said he's not, even though that whole facade about his education. I know you're gonna get into that.
We're gonna get to that. Yeah, we're gonna get to that education thing.
She took her education and things very serious. I said that he did not, but his stuff was so mixed up. Hers was straight up and real, and her people around her felt like
she went to Spelman. She graduated from Spelman, right?
Yeah, but you see a grade like, girl, you know you do better than that. It was kind of like that, pretty much.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what it was. And so by the end of the 1960s, they already had like 3 kids and, what have you. So he was winning, like I said, he was winning awards and he was the belle of the ball. The 1970s were a little shaky for him because I Spy was over. She's from I didn't know Camille was from our part of. I did not know that, Miss Sharon. She's from Montgomery County. That's right down the road from me. Okay. His career was a little shaky in the 1970s. He moved into movies and he was doing averaging about a movie per year, but none of them were like blockbuster hits. I mean, he was working steadily, but none of them were blockbuster hits. He also had 3 shows on cable network. They were all like variety shows. Back in the 70s, everybody had a variety show. Everybody had a variety show. Richard Pryor, everybody had Cher and Sonny and Cher. So he had 3 different variety shows, but none of them really lasted. So towards the end of the 1970s is when he started getting into education. He had a partnership with PBS, where he had he was on the electric company, and he also had a segment called Picture Pages that came on Captain Kangaroo. And then, of course, we know he eventually moved into Fat Albert. So during this time, and these are some of the things that I guess will come back and, come back to haunt him. He had a bit on one of his albums where he talks about Spanish Fly. And he talks about when he was young, the older guys in the neighborhood telling him about Spanish Fly. And how if you drop a couple of drip, you got a girl and she, being a little, standoffish, you drop a couple of drops of Spanish Fly in her drink and voila, right? So this was a comedy bit that he did that people are now saying, is this something that he's, using? Is this some sort of, foreshadowing, or not foreshadowing, but him telling on himself or whatever? And then they do a segment where they explain that Spanish Fly is real. It's not like a urban myth. There is a plant, I think in South America, that they can use the juices or the parts of the plant. And so it's not fake. This is also when he went back to college and he got his master's degree, and he also got a PhD from University of Massachusetts. Now, the PhD is questionable. A lot of people question whether he actually wrote his own dissertation, and his dissertation was actually about Fat Albert. So a lot of people do not respect his PhD because, again, there's a question about whether the PhD is real or not.
Because people even said that Fat Albert, the one allegedly was the secret person that wrote the show, is like you said, the same person that wrote that dissertation, because people just did not think that he had some of that in him. His jokes did not. For me, it's like it kind of put in the same mind of like, because him doing that gave the pathway for Robin to do Bebe's Kids. And everybody did jokes or something about kids or whatever, and they said that he knew people. So it probably was a collaboration, which I think is wrong with that. But that person allegedly has never been like gotten credit for any of that. This is allegedly, of course. I've read about it just today. God knew we were going to do this. That apparently the secret person has never gotten credit for the alleged dissertation or even Fat Albert, which got acclaim awards, being that it's about Black people, Black kids, in the hood, and people of color and people who are not of color love the show. The show was like a Saturday night thing, staple for a lot of kids. Didn't matter the races, it was great. So he made a lot of money from it, but allegedly this person was not paid or got residuals or anything. Now, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but when I'm saying that if that is true, that's criminal to me because he was, like you were saying, struggled in the 70s quite a bit. He also was doing these little things with the women. He had a lot going on. So when he started doing the Fat Albert, it sounded like people was like, wait a minute, who is that? It's like, this is a black version of what's the white dude, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He was that black version of that. So when he was doing all these things, it was like, okay, we can have him on screen, we're gonna make money, but he never gave credit. When he went to screen, they said he made coin. The craziest thing is, it was on NBC, which I know is another thing too, another story, whatever. But he was connected with NBC so tight. I always felt like it was like I gave blood for this relationship to happen, like a sign of the deal with the devil. From the whisperer, whoever told him whatever, to cutting out the silent partner, I feel like whoever was mentoring him that whole time was the same person said, cut that person off. Yeah, you got Fat Albert, but now it's syndicated. So don't have nothing to do with it. You wrote it all. It's your name. Because if you look at the credits, I like to watch the show a lot because it came on whatever. If you watch the credits, everything says Bill Cosby. Everything on that show. If you literally watch it, except maybe some camera stuff. This is when we're doing stuff
sort of like that Tyler Perry. It's sort of like the Tyler Perry.
Yes, ma'am. Pretty much like, okay, signed by Bill Cosby. Cameraman Bill Cosby. Everything was Bill Cosby. And it's not. Look, if you do your own project and you put your split tears in it, cool. But that just all these secrets about him already. I wasn't that surprised to read some of these negative things of how he did practices and businesses. I said because he portrayed. You hear the story about the men that do something to children or anybody, to a woman, do something crazy or bad. You hear stories like, oh my God, he's a philanthropist. He gives everything away. He put $1 million in school, or he built it for the poor kids. It's like something for their conscience. Oh, I did wrong. I did it to the women. I did all these things. Let me give back to something, maybe to relieve my conscience because I know I'm wrong. That's what he's doing, and I know it's all allegedly. But there's too many women from that timeline, from she said 1965 to I forgot what the end time was. That's too many women to just saying the same story or similar situations. Even the young lady that was pregnant, played pregnant woman, and her story, that bothered me because I remember the episode. Because of course, again,
I remember the episode. Right, I absolutely remember that episode.
Oh my God, it bothered me to see it. I was like, wait a minute. So when she told her story. And let's be clear, and a lot of people, like you were saying too, men was like, y'all persecute him because he's black. Look, I know that there are white executives that were doing the same thing, probably, who knows, a lot more and doing a lot more than what he was doing. But at the end of the day, you knew better. You're black. Why do we forget that? Because we go to Hollywood. People forget the color until something happens. Like, uh-oh, brother, you're black. I don't care for 20, 30 years. I know we love you, but uh-oh, you're black. It's like, bro, you forget that because you got money in a big house. It's something I've never understood. I would never forget that. For me, if I don't care if I become the biggest blogger or whatever, that's something I know at the end of the day. If a cop put me over, I'm that black girl behind the wheel. I'm just saying, I think he forgot who he was. I think the fame, and then, like you were saying about the education, because even with the stories of the Cosby Show, it's really, I've really recently been watching this. Since I knew you were doing this too, I was binging it. And watching him, all his shows was geared around education. Literally, the way he iced out Denise because she got pregnant, he was trying to do this whole. In the 50s, people from overseas want to come over to America a lot. People wonder why. Well, research shows they will watch stuff like Happy Days, or Donna Reed, which is showing that's the American dream. Donna
Reed the Beaver, right.
Donna Reed had the dress and the heels, which no woman, I don't care what year, I don't care what color you are, is vacuuming her house, heels, face beat, hair curled. Hey, honey, here's your lunch. That's not. But they thought that. So I feel like that Cosby was using that same thing where it's like, oh, I'm perfect. The Cosby Show is this because honestly, when we watch TV, we always believe it. I come from that era where if it wasn't on TV, it wasn't real to me. So if he's putting stuff on TV, we're going to believe what we see. The Cosby Show, it's a TV show. We're going to be loyal and fight for him and say, no, he couldn't do this, opposed to the real life.
Right. Well, we're gonna get to that because that's a good conversation, and that was something that they brought up in the documentary as well. And I think they brought up some good points.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was sort of where episode 2 ended. But before I go into episode 3, I'm gonna tell you guys 3 stories that they shared on the documentary. I forgot it. The one from episode 1 was the story of a woman named Victoria. She was a Playboy bunny. She had, she ran in those circles. She knew Bill Cosby because of, I think she worked at the Playboy Club as well. And she told the story of what happened to her. Now, again, this gets graphic, so I'm gonna try to be as sensitive with my language. But again, if there are children around, you may want to come back later. But she talked about how there was a tragic accident where her son died. And so she was still grieving. She was out one night with her roommate and she was sort of out of it. She said Bill Cosby came over to their table. I got the impression that Bill Cosby knew her roommate already, or they had, had
good point,
come into contact with each other before. And she said she was just really out of it. She wasn't laughing at any of his jokes. She just, she was still grieving her son. This was only a couple of weeks after he had died. And he said, "Here, take this." And he slid both of them some pills. He said, "That'll loosen you up." And so she said she did, she took the pill, whatever. And she said she started feeling groggy and stuff, but not happy. It didn't make her want to laugh at his jokes anymore.
Right.
So he tried to slide her another pill. She said her roommate took the second pill, but she didn't. And then she said then they basically were both at the table really sloppy, looking like they were sloppy drunk. So he offered to give them a ride home. He absolutely was at the Playboy Mansion all the time. Hey Ma, hey boo.
Hey,
so he was giving him a ride home, but instead of taking him home, he took them to his place. He said, "I want to show you guys some of my awards." So when they got there, and of course she said they got there, she didn't want to get out the car. She said that she was just ready to just lay down and go to sleep. So they get inside and she noticed, and her roommate immediately just passed out on the couch. And she said she noticed that Bill Cosby was sort of looking over at her roommate. And she said she tried to get up to get him, leave her alone. But she ended up falling. And when she fell, she said he came over like he was going to help her up. But basically, he only helped her into a kneeling position where he then, she said that he forcibly, made her give him fellatio, and then bent her over,
right,
and took her from that way.
Yes.
So she said that after it was over, he got up to leave, and she was like, "Well, wait, how are we supposed to get home?" And he said, "There's a phone right there. Call a cab." She said that she told people that Bill Cosby, she never repeated that story about the assault part, but she did tell people the story of him drugging her and things like that.
Right.
She said that the roommate didn't remember what happened because the roommate had been passed out. And so she never really told the roommate about that part, but she did talk about, because again, he was Bill Cosby, and she really didn't think. She said she didn't go to the police because she really didn't think anybody would really believe her, and she didn't want to go through all of that, right? So then there was another story. This was in episode 2 of a woman who was at University of Massachusetts getting her PhD, and she encountered him. He was on campus one day, and she encountered him, and they, started a conversation, and she told him that she was trying to, she was a singer, and she was, trying to get into the business. And she didn't pretend that she didn't think he could help her. She didn't even pretend like she, she was like, he invited her to his house. I guess he had a place in the area because, again, he was attending. That's when he was getting his PhD. So right. he invited her over, and she said, "I just assumed that his wife would be there or that other people would be there because he said he had some people coming over, and I thought it was going to be like a party." But when she got there, it was nobody there but her. And he started taking her through some acting exercises, like some improv exercises. And he said that he gave her a drink for her, and she said that about halfway through, after she started drinking her drink, she started feeling woozy and she couldn't keep her balance. She said next thing she know, the next morning she woke up in a bed and he was standing over her getting dressed. And she was like, what happened? He said, oh, well, you drank too much. You threw up in the bathroom. No, he said you passed out in the bathroom. She said, well, where are my clothes? He said, well, you threw up on them. I had to wash them for you. And so he gave her dress. And so she said she really thought that's what happened. She said, oh my gosh, I embarrassed myself. I drank too much. Oh my gosh, what does this man think of me? So she said a couple of weeks later, he called her and invited her to come down to Atlantic City because he was doing a show. He said, I got some people. I'm going to invite you. And she said, oh my gosh, okay. He still wants to work with me because remember, she believes his story. Yes. And she's like, okay, well, he still wants to work with me. So she goes to Atlantic City. Basically the same thing happens again, but this time she feels as though she was penetrated, right? She said, I can't prove it, but I feel like I was penetrated. And the next morning when she woke up, he told her she had to leave because Camille was on her way.
Wow.
And she said she never heard from him again. Yeah. She said she kind of cussed him out the second time because she said, I'm not crazy. The first time you got away with telling me that I drank too much, but this time I know I didn't drink too much. Something happened. You did something to me, and that's what it was. So again, that's the second story. The third story that was told was a young lady. This was in Reno, I believe. Ran into her in the gift shop. That she was young. She was under 18. This young lady was under 18. She was there with her sister, whatever they were doing. Again, he invited her and her sister. He was doing a show. He invited them backstage. Again, he's Bill Cosby. You run into Bill Cosby in the gift shop and he says, hey, you coming to my show? Great. I'm going to give you some backstage passes for you to come and hang out with me, after the show. So that's what she does. Same thing happens. They're playing backgammon. She gets woozy. She said, the last thing she remembers is falling face first into the backgammon game. And then, of course, the next morning, same thing. And so again, y'all, these are not women who have talked to each other. These are not women who have compared notes. And you start hearing the story. And the other thing is, and this came up in the documentary too, if you can't remember what happened, you can't prove what happened. Rape is already hard enough to prove when you know what happened. Like we see it happen all the time. So when you say, well, I passed out and I feel like I was penetrated, or I passed out and I woke up naked, you don't know what happened.
Yeah, but the thing that was different for this case was it was so many telling similar stories that a lawyer can build. You can build a circumstantial case, if you have a certain amount. But what I also want to say for the women for this time period, and we have to understand, even though me, Billy BT come from, but we still was babies or not born yet. Women for a long time was just treated like an accessory, and literally, and some of them were so intelligent more than the men that was their bosses, but they really had no control. The 9 to 5 movie with Dolly Parton, it was kind of funny and satire-ish. It was reality for a lot of women. But as far as you have to do what a man says to get ahead and try to say anything and rock the boat, so to speak, you be blacklisted. And a lot of women who were actors, actresses, musicians were blacklisted, aka women, especially back then. Back then it was really bad.
Absolutely.
You were secretary, and the secretary was most likely, and this is unfortunate, was doing the work. But the manager would come in and say, oh, I worked all night and got it done. And it really was the secretary. And that happened in so many cases where it's like nothing, they never got credit for anything. And so with that being said, those women were probably career driven and was trying to make it, whatever, how you want to say it. And he took advantage of it. And the whole thing that I thought was weird about him in this Spanish thing, there were probably men, especially in that time period, that were doing the same thing. The difference was nobody made a bit about it or made a song about it. I was like, you crazy. You have whole records. And the thing that was so crazy about the Spanish thing, you brought it up, he said it so many times. You could pull
They showed clip after clip after clip of him talking about Spanish Fly. I mean,
weird.
They showed he did it in his album. He did it in an interview with Larry King.
Yes.
About it. Like they showed like at least 4 different clips of him talking about Spanish Fly.
It was actually, and the thing about it showed 4 clips, but when I Googled it, it was more than that. It was sad. He's talked about it in almost every interview. It's almost like a mantra for him. He does, but the one I'll say the 80s and before, toward the 90s, he stopped it. But from the 80s before, I looked up different interviews where he literally would bring the story up. So, and the interview wouldn't have to. He was fascinated by it. The fact that he had control over a woman. I don't know if it is a compliment because he was kind of a nerd a little bit, or kind of like an Urkel, whatever, growing up. He had this weird thing where it's like, I have control over the woman. Even if you watch the Cosby Show, when he would refer to Felicia Rashad, and it would be, of course, the show, but he wrote a lot of that stuff. You, my woman. I would watch these episodes. I felt like he felt that way. Even though Felicia Rashad played this independent, strong woman, he wanted that submissive, that woman that, did what he wanted, and he couldn't get it, so he had to drug them to get it. I go back and forth. I'm like, you could get any woman you wanted to, even being married. And of course, allegedly, she knew that he cheated.
She knew he cheated. They said that it was, everybody knew that Bill Cosby cheated. Like right. that wasn't a secret. And she is, from my understanding, she was aware of the infidelity, but probably, I don't know how aware she was of this side of it.
Now, this right here to me, and I thought about this. I find it very hard to believe. I'm not saying she knew every detail when she was like, I know it was 6 o'clock, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I find it very hard to believe that she didn't have any inkling. Like if she heard the record Spanish something, she probably maybe cringed because something happened maybe between them two. Because for all we know, he may have gotten her that way. Oh, you drunk. Because all the stories are so similar. Most men, unfortunately, have a small brain and they do the same script. So why would he get his wife that way? And
I don't know.
I mean, I'm saying, to me, it's hard for me to believe that she didn't know anything. That she didn't reach around the corner. You married this man. The many calls he may have gotten, because that time period, a man get called middle of the night. Hey, I got this girl. I gave her too much. Take care of it. And she didn't overhear not one conversation after 30, 40 years. No,
I don't know. And Maud is asking a good question. Why she's still with them? Listen, I can't answer none of them questions, Cham. They even brought up, and Kamisha, you tell me if you thought this was creepy. Because at first I was like, okay, now they're doing too much. But then I was like, well, no, it again, it's creepy. When they showed that clip from the Cosby Show of him talking about his barbecue sauce and how his barbecue sauce makes people want to have sex. He didn't say it that bluntly, but that's basically what he was saying.
I think about myself. Watching as a child. As a child, I was naive and didn't get it because I was raised in a Bill Cosby-esque life. Then think about it, watching again in my older years when I had my kids. I had my husband at the time, and then we got it and was like, ooh, like that. And then watching it now, divorced, kids are grown. All this stuff is white, is gone, whatever. I look at it like that is creepy to me. To be honest, it's creepy to me when they play the scene, because it's like you have to put something in something. And even when he said, "I got some on the dresser,
the nightstand," right?
You know what? I'm gonna say something. To me, I'm still kind of conflicted with that because I grew up with my parents who was in love with each other. First, my dad is so, but they was in love with each other. And many black couples I saw, especially they were married 20-some years, they did stuff. They was together. They enjoyed their sexual life, whatever, So that's like, is it bad? But then what made it bad is when he was like, I put my stuff in it and everybody is. That was the problem. I think maybe he just said him and his wife, but it was like the fact you are proud and you're like, oh, I got my special sauce. You see what happened when they did it. I was like,
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at Miss Honey. Miss Honey said, child, Camille walking around there, running, building to walls and moving furniture around. She ain't right.
Well, that might be what's going on. Look, that might be what's going on.
Okay, so that's sort of where episode 2 ended there. And again, episode 2 ended with accusations from the 1970s of women. There was another story of a young girl who played tennis at a private country club in Las Vegas, and Bill Cosby and his partner played against her and her partner, and he was like, if we win, if we lose, then I'll give you backstage passes to my show. And she said she said in her whole tennis career, that's the one match she wished she had lost. She won the match. She got tickets to come backstage. And of course, the same thing happened. I don't need to keep going through it. She went backstage. She'd offer her a drink. Excuse me. He offered her a drink. She woke up the next morning. He told her she drank too much. She said she doesn't. I take that back. She didn't wake up the next morning. She said she doesn't even remember how she got home. Wow. But she woke up at home the next morning. She said she don't know if she drove herself, but she knew she was out of it. And again, he told her, she called him and was like, what happened? Oh, you drank too much, yada, yada, yada. So that was the end of episode 2. So episode 3 gets into the Cosby Show, right? It's the Cosby years. They do talk about, the fact that he started doing stand-up, and that's when everybody was doing these stand-up specials like HBO. And that's when he did the famous one that he did. I think it was called Fatherhood.
Yeah, I think Bill Cosby was a hater. I'm gonna tell you something. I really think that Bill Cosby, when he started seeing the Eddie Murphys and all these people coming up, because Eddie Murphy talked about this, and it wasn't just Eddie Murphy that he called and was like, I don't like how you cuss and this. I think that you're a hater, because when you first started out, you was that raunchy dude. But then you changed because you had a conversation with somebody that told you to sign your life away. And you had this whole clean-cut image, but really underneath the rug, you were a dirty little something. And you didn't get a chance to do all that. So we saw the young guys coming up and was able to be free and do whatever and still go in a career or make movies like you were doing. He was hating. I really believe Bill Cosby hated on all the young people that was able to. The weird thing is he gave them the opportunity. He changed the game in a positive way. But when the people are utilizing it, he didn't like it because he couldn't do it. I think he's a hater. I'm not sure if you agree with that or not. I feel like you start seeing these young bucks coming up, and Murphy say he just was going off on him for no reason. He'd laugh about it. He jokes about it. I first talked about with Seinfeld people. He said Bill Cosby literally was upset with him, and it was just out of nowhere. And he's like, bro, he even said, I know your error. You came up with the Red Fox. How you come at me like that because you changed your tune and how you changed your comedic timing and you want to be clean cut? He was a hater. I'm sorry.
Well, they did talk about that. They said they talked about the phone call to Eddie Murphy. They talked about that in the 4th part, but it's the same. They talked about that. They said that he was known as a bully. Like he would do those kinds of things. And he would call up other comedians and tell them, especially the younger comedians. Like somebody said earlier in the chat that him and Richard Pryor didn't get along. So he wouldn't have done nothing like that to one of his contemporaries, but he would do it to a lot of the younger comedians who he felt like he could, for lack of a better word, they called him a bully. They said he would try to bully them. He did the same thing with reporters and things like that who wrote stories that he didn't like. We'll get into what he did to Mark Lamont Hill in a minute, but
oh yes.
Excuse me, Dr. Mark Lamont Hill, and that's important.
Come on now.
So the 3rd part gets into the Cosby years, right? They said that Camille never came on set, that most of the people on the show never met. Camille never met his family. They did not come to the show. So what that says to me is maybe they were already living separate lives. Like they were still married, but I don't know if they were still moving as a couple. Like publicly, yes, but maybe privately on a day-to-day basis, maybe not so much. I don't know, and I'm just speculating, but I'm thinking if she never, he did the Cosby Show for 8 years. If she, like they said that she was never there. She never came to set, and his kids didn't come. So that just makes me wonder. I don't know.
It's a thing.
Right. They said that there was always a group of models that would come and sit on the front row during taping. They said that Bill Cosby's, he had an open door policy and his dressing room door was always open until the models came. And after they would finish taping, they would go into his dressing room and the door would be locked. And then we start hearing the stories, and these are probably some of the stories that you guys are familiar with because a lot of these stories came out during the court case. But then we start hearing stories about actresses who actually came on set. And the one actress that, again, they showed the clip of both of them, they showed the clip of the shows that they were actually in. The one actress who, again, same script, different cast. He invited her to his house. He was going to, give her some acting training. He was going to mentor her. He assaulted her allegedly. All this is allegedly, y'all. These are these women's stories. I'm just telling you what happened. The other woman told the same story. She said that, but she didn't say that he actually R-word her. I don't want to say the word too many times. But she did say that he molested her. That she went to his dressing room. She actually didn't want to go to his dressing room, and she tried to push back. And they basically told her, "Girl, you are an extra. If you don't take your butt down into that dressing room, you know." And she went down there, and I guess he could tell that she wasn't with it. And so he just kind of did some acting exercises with her where his hands grazed her breast. And he told her, "See, that's all we were going to do. You didn't have to be afraid to come down here. That's all we were going to do." But I feel like had she not resisted, maybe he would have pushed it further. But
I agree with that, 100%. You know what I think really big? I want to ask this question. If you noticed that out of everybody who came to talk, it was a select few extras, women, obviously. But people question. I saw a documentary also about this on YouTube that you won't get the Felicia Rashad spoke for him. None of the kids have spoke against him. Even you think about I'm sorry, one that played Living Single and then played, and I heard he helped her with that role too, get that role. And Pam, she played Pam. None of them have spoken out against Cosby. In fact, when this came out, they said none of them would say anything about it. And it's almost like some kind of weird thing where it's like they're not going to say anything negative about him. It's like, what is that?
Because here's the thing. And again, y'all, I'm not saying, but here's the thing about what predators do. You have the victims, and then we said it at the beginning. You have the victims, and then you have the people that they treated really well. And so if the Felicia Rashads, the Keisha Knight Pulliams, the Malcolm Jamal Warners, the Lisa Bonets of the world, the Erica Alexanders, if they never had that experience, if he was always Uncle Bill or whatever they called him on set, and he changed their life and he set them up, they still get, they don't make billions off of the Cosby Show, but they still get residuals from the Cosby Show. They still get a paycheck to this day. And so if they never saw that side of him and they never had that experience with him, then it is hard to turn around and say, because again, that's a good segue. Thank you. See, you gave me a good segue. So the guy who played Martin on the Cosby Show, right? He was in the documentary, and I had already read this story. He did an article in Ebony, I think. But they talked about how Black America didn't want to believe this, and how Black America is always looking to forgive. And he used the example of OJ. They used the example of R. Kelly, and how it takes so much for us to believe that our Black quote unquote heroes, because I'm not gonna say these are people are heroes, but that our Black quote unquote heroes can be these other people as well. And so the guy who played Martin, he played Denise's husband on the show. He said he didn't believe it either until a friend of his told him her story. She worked on the Cosby Show, and he said he called her. Well, they were already on the phone, and he said, "Can I ask you something?" No, they were together, and he said, "Can I ask you something?" And she said, "Sure." And he said to her, he said, "Well, you worked, we worked on the Cosby Show together. You worked closely with Mr. Cosby. What was your experience with him?" And he said that she broke down and told him, and she told her story. And he said, because she is a friend, because I trust her, and because I know her, I believed her. And that is when I changed my mind. But remember, so he was the same way. He wasn't saying anything negative about Cosby. He wasn't believing the stories because of his experience. And then Chris Spencer, the comedian, he's a writer producer now, but he started off as a comedian. He said the same thing for him. He said he didn't believe it until Beverly Johnson told her story. And he said he knows Beverly Johnson. They play golf together. They're friends. And he said the way she told her story when she was on The View is what made him change his mind.
Yep,
and so it's almost like that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You know what I mean? Like, look at what's the name? Gacy. He was a Boy Scout troop leader, but he was killing kids and burying them under his house.
Facts.
People he was a leader of the community. So it's always that other side. And so they prey on those people saying, "Oh, he could never do that. He could never be that person." But by the time we got to part 4, right? And we're over 65 accusers now from a time span of the 1960s to the 2000s. From where I sit, and people in the chat, y'all can feel how y'all feel about it. But from where I sit, where there's smoke, there's fire, and everybody ain't lying. Now, did some people throw their hat in? Maybe. I'm not gonna say that. But everybody ain't lying on this man. That's just how I feel about it.
I agree with you on the other part too. For real, money. Some of them. I think that, I'm gonna be honest, it's probably, I'm serious, it's probably a very small amount that was reaching, because they probably heard about it because of the true stories. So right. you know, so some people probably heard about, oh, I know how Bill Cosby, because even when the girl said that was older, that new Playboy or whatever it was, she was like, well, we knew how Cosby got down. We knew what the women were. Like I said, women in that time period really, they really just forgo rights to a point to get their, and to be a career woman, you were single, alone, then you were ostracized. Oh, she's a career woman. She might be a lesbian. It was so weird how women were treated.
And remember, they were kids too. We also have to give the benefit of the doubt that, Keisha and I, Podium, they were kids.
Yes.
So their experience would absolutely have been different.
But the kids, the thing about with the Malcolm X, I don't fault them. Some people do. To be almost raised, because you might as well say, they even said they had their parents, but they saw Bill Cosby more than their own dad. To me, that would be really hard to come on camera and say, yeah, I saw girls go in his dressing room and I was walking by. No, I'm not upset they didn't say anything. It's really, that's hard. That's hard. I could understand why no one spoke up with Felicia Rashad, and most of her, she was angry. This was happening at all, saying what he's done for black colleges, and I get what she said. I get it.
Absolutely has.
I get it. I get it. She's not lying. But again, if a monster wants to appease his conscience and make himself feel good for the moment, they donate. They help out people who are less fortunate. That doesn't mean that person's not a bad person.
I know that's right, Miss Toby.
Some good stuff. I love Felicia Rashad, but when she came out spoke, I feel me, I wouldn't have said nothing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she probably should have just not said anything.
Thank you.
But I honestly feel like she was asked to say something, but that's just my opinion. So I'm gonna call a couple of these names, and then we're gonna go into part 4. Lisa Lublin, she was a model. She said he got her drunk. She blacked out. Eden, that's the one I told you guys about that said that she was molested, not necessarily sexually assaulted. Lily Bernard, she was an actress. She said that's the one the clip that she was pregnant on the show. 1986, Stacey Pinkerton, she was 21. 1987, Helen Gumpel, she was 27. And she said that he offered her a drink and she refused to take the drink. And he became very irate with her when she wouldn't take the drink and basically put her out after that. Barbara Bowen, she was his mentor between the ages of 17 and 19. And she said one night she passed out. And she said maybe he must not have given her enough because she woke up in the middle of the assault and was able to fight him off. But she said that he had been coaching her and he was friends with her father or something like that, and he had been mentoring her. So towards the end of episode 3 is where the Cosby Show is over, and we see him sort of turn into Grumpy Cosby, like he became the old man on the porch. That's when he gave his infamous pound cake speech. And he started talking about, again, the pull your pants up and the single mothers and basically all that's wrong with the black community, which for the first time since the late 70s, a lot of people started feeling differently about Cosby because they were split on some of the things that he was saying publicly about us. Okay. So the beginning of part 4, Hannibal Buress, the infamous video that went viral of Hannibal Buress talking about Bill Cosby being a you-know-what. Again, that's when they started talking about how he was a bully. He would call comedians, he would call reporters, he would have people blacklisted and articles taken down and things of that nature. It wasn't until the op-ed that was written by Barbara Bowen, the one who fought him off, um, that it started gaining traction. And then we had the cover on the New Yorker where 35 of his accusers were on the cover with an empty chair, which was to symbolize the accusers that had not come forward yet. Okay. Go ahead, Kamisha. Anything you want to add? Because the next part, it gets into what I already talked about how black men just didn't seem to want to believe it, and how Black America didn't really want to believe it. But go ahead, Kamisha.
Yeah, I work overnight, so I mean, I've enjoyed this conversation, but I know
I know you got to get ready to go in a few minutes. Yeah, we're almost done, but if you are a member, you have the link. Go look at my community wall if you want to come up and join the conversation. And I did give the link to TSF. Miss T Velocity, if you want the link, let me know if you want to come up for a few minutes. But go ahead, Kamisha. I want you to be able to say what you need, because I know you got to go to sleep.
Well, what I wanted to say was this: the whole facade. As far as black men, I'm sorry, the facade. The black man protecting the black man, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, how do you protect this and not acknowledge it? You know, women of all races have always felt like that men ignore them. And for our community, it's the same way. Unfortunately, those women were probably talking to their friends. I love the scene with the husband and wife where he started crying. He was so emotional because
that was so deep.
When he saw him getting away with it, and he knew his wife or whatever, wife told him over the years about what happened to him, that made me cry in the middle at work, because I loved it, because he was like, I wasn't there or anything, but I can't protect her. To know he's going to walk out, it bothered me watching this, because it's like, you had so much power, Bill Cosby. You had so much power, and yes, you utilized it for good. But unfortunately, all that good is almost like you didn't do anything, because all that bad you did, and I'm pretty sure it's more than we don't know, it's almost like overshadowing all the positive things you did for our community, because you wanted to get off. And there are women everywhere that will do it for a Big Mac. So I'm trying to figure out, there are some who probably would do it for a Happy Meal, but yet you are sitting here taking advantage of women because they're what? And some of the women in that industry would have done it for nothing. So I don't understand why you feel like you wanted to do this to women and make them feel like they were idiots or degrade them or whatever. It was a power trip, plain and simple. He has this complex. I've always felt like this. It is a power trip to a woman not doing anything. I'm trying to figure out where you get the pleasure from. I really don't understand. Most times, to me, the pleasure is with us, with the two of you guys interacting. If they're not doing anything, they don't remember. I'm trying to get, where is the pleasure? So it's a power trip, and it's gross. And so for me to look at Bill Cosby, I watched the show. My kids, we discussed it, me, my boys, and my daughter. And their opinions was crazy. But we watched the show still, but it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Even when I see him, the barbecue sauce down, I can't watch the episode without thinking, did he write that? Did that actually happen? Did he give one of his girls a barbecue sauce and they didn't know something was in it? Spanish fly, whatever it is. And it just, this whole story bothered me. And I think as a people, and I'm happy this is on your live, where people will watch this over and over and over. The conversation needs to be had about the uncles and the step whoever that you know did something. This is going a little off the rail, but you know did something. You say nothing.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. And that's just on period. I feel like there's many uncles and many people that uncle whatever, you know, the same thing happened and you said nothing. And I'm pretty sure this has sparked a conversation, but I can still watch Fat Albert because it's cartoon, it's animated, and I look at it as fantasy. And even watching the Cosby Show. But now you start digging. And opposed to being a young girl and watching stuff, and you're just happy to see this black family. And ooh, I can't believe Vanessa went to the city and for big fun.
Big fun, Vanessa.
Big fun. But you know, I still take pleasure, even because you get it. When I said it, you knew it immediately.
Right. Because we all, again, we are Cosby kids. We grew up on Cosby. Yeah, absolutely.
But there's some
absolutely
that you kind of get a little. There's more than just a bit. There's other episodes. If you go down to episodes, there's other episodes that are a little bit creepy. And one day, I'm gonna talk behind the scenes. I saw some episode where it's like, it's almost like the barbecue scene, but it's just small, compacted throughout the whole season. It's almost like I don't want to watch it because I'm gonna start thinking as an older person and doing that adulting thing. Like, what did he mean by that? Do you think he meant? And and I just want to watch it for the fun. But he took that from us.
The Cosby Show's back on, Cali girl. Different World and the Cosby Show's back.
Oh yeah, the Different World. In fact, I think that I have Showtime and Stars. You can watch Peacock, Hulu, the Cosby Show, Black History Month.
It's back on. It's back on.
Yes, and
they pulled it for a little while, but it's back on.
And Debbie Allen, I don't think she really rocked with Felicia on the topic. I think that they held it as sisters. They didn't really say anything, but Felicia Rashad, I think Debbie Allen was on two different spectrums on that because she didn't like the fact that Denise being pregnant was going to be written into the college. He wanted her to be this perfect daughter. And she went to him and fought for that. Hey, there are Black girls who are in college who are pregnant right now. Let's do the storyline. He was adamant. She said
I'm about to say I could tell you a whole bunch of stories about women I went to college with that got pregnant freshman year, sophomore year. It happened. Like that was legit. That was legit. But again, it's that whole image part of it, that he wants to portray this image. I know you have to get ready to go, Kamisha. Yeah. Thank you so much. I want you to get your sleep, babe. Kamisha works nights, so she ain't been to sleep since yesterday. So but I tried to I definitely wanted your input on it. We're only gonna be here a little bit longer. Again, anybody who's a member, you have the link if you want to come up. We're gonna be here for maybe another 20 minutes. But I'm enjoying the conversation. And again, I sent the link to my TSF guys if y'all want to come up and give like a male point of view on it.
But thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Your chat is always good to me anyway. So shout out to all you guys in the chat. My people came through. I saw them floating in the chat because we're a family. So it's like
absolutely. And I don't know if I have a mod. I don't think I have a mod in the chat. I'm gonna drop your link though. I'm gonna put your link in the chat. If you guys are not already subscribed to Kamisha Reviews.
Am I a mod? I could drop it. Did you make me a mod? I don't know if I'm.
Hold on, let me make you a mod real quick. Hold on, let me make you a mod because I don't know if you're a mod, but let me make you a mod anyway. Cause
I just made you a mod. I made everybody a mod recently, and I was like, okay, let me first give my copy.
Let me see here. Let me get.
I think a lot of people in your chat I see mine. A lot of people I see here, so it's like I said, it's.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of mods over here, so that's why. Hold on, type something in the chat, Kamisha.
Okay, hold on.
Oh no, there it is. There's something right there. There's something right there. All right, you're a mod now. So here, go ahead and drop your link.
I don't see it. I just typed in the chat. I don't see myself blue. I'm pasting. Is it showing on your end? Because it's not.
Hold on. Type again. I just did it. Hold on. Type again.
There we go.
Yeah, it's in there. There it is. So that's the link. You guys make sure y'all subscribe to Kamisha Reviews. She does channel reviews. We do the panel every Saturday on Ready to Love. She also does a lot of like the streaming shows, a lot of the competition shows. She does Big Brother. She does the challenge. Love is Blind, that kind of stuff. So y'all make sure y'all check her out. And you go ahead and go to sleep. I don't want to be the reason why you can't stay awake tonight.
She's like my she fusses at me all the time, y'all. She fusses at me on my own channel.
Exactly. Go to bed. Go to bed.
All right, y'all. Love y'all. Have a good day. Bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye. All right. So that was sort of the end of episode 3. Now, episode 4 got into the legal side of this. So, and somebody said this in the chat earlier. I think it might have been Bap that said this in the chat earlier. Here's what happened in the legal case. In 2005, Bill Cosby gave a deposition for another, and the deposition was for another woman who was accusing him, the former athlete, the one who was accusing him, of assaulting her. He gave a deposition. So here's where the legal side of this comes into play. In the deposition, he was told, answer everything honestly. Nothing you say in this deposition will be used against you criminally. We will not come after you criminally. So please answer the question honestly. Now, had the DA not said that to him, then he could have absolutely pled the fifth, because we know that we have a Fifth Amendment which protects us against self-incrimination. So with that understanding, with the lawyer's understanding, with Bill Cosby's understanding, he answered the questions honestly. And in that honest answer, he said, yeah, I did it. Yeah, I put some drugs, I put some stuff in her drink, loosen her up a little bit. What he also went on to say, which I think a lot of people don't focus on, which they brought up in the documentary, he went on to say that he knew that she really wasn't in a, he said, well, she didn't verbally say no, and nothing in her actions told me no, so I moved forward. He also acknowledged that he knew that he was sort of in a gray area between consent and not consent. So he basically admitted that he drugged this girl and he knew that he was assaulting her. So fast forward to 2015, I think, where they actually charged him criminally. They only had a month left before the statute of limitations was up to charge him. So they charged him criminally, and they used that deposition in order to convict him. The same deposition that he was told would not be used criminally against him. Now, what happened was, it was a different district attorney, and the district attorney's argument was, I ain't promised you nothing. That person promised you, but I ain't promised you. So we using this deposition because that wasn't a promise that I gave you. The reason why his conviction was overturned and why he got out of jail is because on appeal, his lawyer was able to successfully argue that the district attorney's office, not that single person, but that person was representing the district attorney's office. And as an office, they promised they wouldn't use that deposition against him criminally. It was supposed to be sealed. Nobody was ever supposed to ever be able to even read it. But the judge in Bill Cosby's trial ruled, well, because he's such a public figure, he doesn't have the, remember we talked about when people are public figures, how the rules are a little bit different. So the judge said, because he's a public figure, he should not have the right to that expectation of privacy, and he unsealed the deposition. We were never supposed to know that deposition ever existed. And so that is how Bill Cosby was able to get out of jail. It has nothing to do with whether he was guilty or not. It has nothing to do with whether they were like, oh, well, no, he really should have never been convicted. No. He should have never been convicted using that evidence. And that deposition is why I don't even try to understand people who say that Bill was innocent. He said he wasn't. Right. I mean, he said, listen, if you don't want to believe all them other 60-something women that have come forward, all you got to believe is that one woman that he admitted he did it. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to believe that he's a serial assault person. But in that, at least in that one case, he said he did it. So does it matter if it happened 50 times or one time? Joshua, I literally just explained to you why he was let out of jail. I literally just explained that. Yeah, he admitted it under deposition. He admitted that he gave the woman, because here's the reality. If you go to the club and someone's drinking and they get intoxicated and you take advantage of the fact that they're intoxicated, you're wrong. If you are purposefully getting someone drunk with the intent to assault them, you're a rapist. Do y'all see the difference? You see what I'm saying? So when Bill Cosby is purposefully giving these people pills in order to render them unable to give consent, because if you cannot give consent, it's rape. I mean, that's it. So going to the club and getting drunk on your own and somebody taking advantage of you, going to the club and somebody purposefully putting something in your drink so that now you are in a place of vulnerability, now we get into criminal activity. So that's where we are with the case now, you guys. Part of the problem is some of these women did try to go to the police after the fact, but the statute of limitations is up. And for those who don't know what that means when I say statute of limitations, for certain crimes, there's only a certain amount of time you have in order to file a police report and press charges. There is no statute of limitations on murder. If you kill somebody when you're 20 and they find the evidence when you're 65, they can charge you when you're 65. If you rob somebody, the statute of limitations might be 5 years. If you assault somebody, the statute of limitation might be 2 years. The problem is the statute of limitations varies from state to state. So nobody really knows what the rules are and what the laws are when it comes to certain things. But what's happened on a positive level is that a lot of these women have been able to get the statute of limitations either changed, like in the state of Nevada, the one woman who was assaulted by him allegedly, she was able to get the statute of limitations extended 2 years. So I think it went from 4 years to 6 years in the state of Nevada. And then the state of California, Gloria Allred and some of the victims there were able to get the statute of limitations dropped altogether. So there are no more statute of limitations in the state of California when it comes to sexual assault. And there are a couple of other states where they have dropped the statute of limitations as well. Because a lot of these women would have gone to the police later once they were able to deal with the trauma and understand it, but they were precluded from it legally. So, child, that's it. That was the Bill Cosby documentary, child. Bill Cosby released on a technicality. He needs to get somewhere and sit down. He don't need to do no more comedy shows. Just get somewhere and sit down, right? The whole going to the club and getting drunk always confusing because what if two people are drunk and they had sex? Does that mean they both are liable? Well, again, that gets into shaded areas because if you voluntarily are getting drunk and you go with somebody and y'all have sex together, I mean, as long as nobody wakes up the next morning saying you took advantage of me, I mean, it is what it is. But it does get into very, if both of y'all are drunk, I think that just is what it is. But if that person's drunk and you're not, technically they can't give consent. Like if they're inebriated, they can't give consent. But again, that gets into, I ain't no lawyer, so that gets into real tricky territory, child. Folks worried about his legacy. Well, rape is a part of Bill's legacy too. He wasn't worried about his legacy then. I'm not concerned about it now. Yeah, I mean, again, you can feel how you feel. Like I tried to be, I mean, I have my opinion. I'm sure y'all can tell I have my opinion. But I'm just trying to give y'all the facts. Now, you ain't got to believe the facts. You don't have to like the facts. But at the end of the day, at some point, we have to accept that our quote-unquote heroes are not perfect people. It's just like when people found out that Martin Luther King cheated on Coretta. He cheated. He was a cheater. You know what I'm saying? Like he was a cheater. So if you were looking at Martin Luther King to be the beacon of fidelity in a marriage, he ain't that person. That ain't what he did. That ain't who he was. You know what I'm saying? If they're both drunk legally, neither of them can give consent, and a person could claim that the other assaulted him. See, that's that crazy stuff. What's up, Classic? Facts are the facts. Yeah, I mean, I'm just giving y'all the information. And if you don't like my interpretation or you think I'm slanted, it is on Showtime. Y'all can go watch it. It's 4 episodes. Matter of fact, I think y'all should go watch it. Everybody should go watch it. It's very good. Because again, I think that they were fair in them sharing the good things that Bill Cosby did. But again, 2 things can be true at the same time. I agree, Xavier. I was just using it as an example. I agree. They're not the same. I mean, being a cheater and being somebody that sexually assaults women, that's not the same. I'm not putting them on the same level. I was just using an example of how we hold up our heroes, and again, that doesn't make them perfect people. Yeah, I agree. I apologize. That wasn't the best example, y'all. I was just using an example of how we hold up our heroes. That's all right. But that wasn't the best example. I'm not trying to compare Martin Luther King to Bill Cosby. I'm sorry. I wasn't. I apologize. Bad example. Bad example. Well, he cheated on her with white and black women, Joshua. Not just white women. He cheated with black women too. So yes, y'all, that's what had happened. I thought it was a good documentary. I know for myself, I remembered hearing the stories about Bill Cosby long before the dam broke when Hannibal Buress video went viral. I was doing radio when his video went viral, and I remember us having a very spirited debate on air about it because it was fresh and we were talking about it, and we definitely had a very spirited conversation. I wish I still had those old radio shows. I was doing a radio show, and a lot of those old episodes got deleted there was some stuff that happened and it got deleted by accident. But we had some really, really good shows. I wish that I could give y'all like a website to go to where y'all could go listen to some of those old shows, because that's how I started doing YouTube. I started doing my podcast because I was doing the radio and I was like, I still got more to say. So I started doing my podcast, and then somebody was like, girl, you should get over there on YouTube. So that's how I got here. You're from Philadelphia. It's common knowledge that Bill was wild. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I heard the story. So when Hannibal Buress did his comedy bit and people were acting like, oh my gosh, I'm like, where y'all been? Because this ain't new information. Oh, I wish I had that Dr. Umar video. Oh, that's the one that I really wish had never. Oh my God. Because we used to upload. Okay, so we used to upload our shows onto Apple. We were on Apple Tunes. We were on Apple iTunes. And so I could have told y'all to go over to the Apple to listen with Spikefish Radio. And but Earl, that's the guy who owns Spikefish, he took them all down. So, because when we stopped doing the show, he took them all down. And he said he was going to upload it. He was going to create a website. He was going to do a bunch of stuff, but he never really did. I really would. But that Dr. Umar video is one of the videos that got deleted. Oh my gosh, that video was so good. Oh, I was so mad about that one. Earl was mad too, because Earl, when I say Earl got Dr. Umar all the way together, baby. I wonder if we'll ever get to a point where we can acknowledge that the creators whose works we love are capable of being horrible people. We can still like what they made and know that they aren't ish. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Two things can be true at the same time. Which video, Joshua? The Bill Cosby video or the Dr. Umar video? Which video? The Dr. Umar video, we basically was just getting into him about his beliefs and his views, and especially when it came to education. Like, I tore his ass up on that education piece. Bill Cosby, I really don't remember a lot of what was said, but we just talked, but we discussed it. And so when we did Spikefish Radio, it was 3 of us. And so we had Spikefish, who he was the host. It was his show. And he was the host. And then it was me. I was sort of like the female voice, I was that version. And then we had Myron, who was like our shock jock. So Myron would always say the craziest shit. Myron would always, if we said black, Myron was going to say white. Whether he really believed it was white or not, he was going to say white just because we said black. Like, he was that person. And I remember that he was the one that was defended. Oh my gosh, he was defending Bill Cosby. It was a conspiracy. They don't want Bill Cosby to buy NBC. I was like, that is the dumbest shit I have ever heard in my life. So they created all of these women to come forward and accuse him of all of these things because they don't want him to buy the network. You do know that NBC could just say no. Yeah, I was Angela Yee. Yep, that's it. I don't know if they ever built that damn school, child. Ellen, because I don't remember, because that was like 10 years ago. I don't remember all of the details. When were we doing Spikefish? I've been doing this that was about 8 years ago. So I don't remember all the details, but I remember he was trying to say that ain't nothing wrong with the little black boys. All they need is a good ass whooping, and that ADHD ain't real. And yes, you're absolutely correct. Myron was Charlemagne the God. Yes. He was like, yes, he absolutely was. He was the Howard Stern or the Charlemagne. Yes, he absolutely was. That's exactly who he was. Exactly who he was. It was fun. It was definitely fun. I wish if I could ever find any old I might ask Earl if he could give me some of the old videos, and I'll see if I can clip some together and play some for y'all. Yeah, it ain't no school and the damn sure ain't no money. Right, exactly. Like, first of all, that's not even a true rumor, but I do remember that Myron was, like I said, we could say we could, because after the show, sometimes we would go out, we would go out for drinks, we would go out or whatever, and we could be like, so Myron could start the show saying, "Whew, I think I want to go. I think I want to go to Luke's after here. I'm just making up some shit. I'm gonna go to Luke's." I'm like, "Yeah, Luke's sound good. Woo, yes, that's my spot. Oh, I can't. We're going to Luke's. As soon as the show over, we're going to Luke's. Show will be over. All of us getting in the car. We heading to Luke's. Myron be like, where we going? We're going to Luke's. Remember, you said you want to go to Luke's. I ain't going to no damn Luke's. Luke's racist. 2 hours ago, you wanted to go to Luke's. What are you talking? Like, that was Myron. And then we would sit there arguing about why he don't want to go to Luke's. After he said he wanted to go to Luke's. I used to be like, I'm not doing this for him. I am not doing this for him. Me and Myron got into the worst. Oh my God, we got into some of the nastiest arguments. We got into some nasty arguments. I think it was great that the documentary was created and produced by a black man. Far too many black folks don't believe the accusations because it was predominantly from a white person's narrative. That's true. Child, I ain't dropped Myron off nowhere. Myron had a car. I went on about my business. Many a night, I left Myron's ass standing outside. Many a night. I was like, Earl, I'm going to Luke's. Now, either you coming or I'll see y'all next week. But, who those memories? We used to have a good time, though. We used to have a good time. Hold on. We used to have a good time. Let me see. Trying to see if I can find something. Here it is right here. Here's some pictures from when we used to do Spike Fish. See, that's Earl right there. Oh shoot, that's Earl. You see, that's Chuck Brown in the back. There's a Chuck Brown poster in the studio. So that's Earl. That's my boy D-Moz. D-Moz did a radio show before us. His show went on before us. That's Leland. Leland was crazy as hell too, child. Leland was crazy as hell. Let's see. That's Myron. You see how I ain't even sit in the same booth with Myron. I made him sit behind the glass. I ain't even sit in the same booth. I could be like, I'm not sitting in here with you. You're crazy. That was like our promo. Yep. This was at Miss Toby. Oh, you might not know, but we were at WEAC Radio. WEAC Radio was where we used to do the show from. WEAC Radio. I'm trying to find. Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, that was us. So it was fun. Like I said, I missed doing the show. It was fun. And this is us after the show outside arguing. That's Myron and that's Earl. And we were on Southeast DC over by the big chair. If you know DC, you know what I'm talking about. All right, y'all, let me get off of here. Let me go figure out what I'm going to do for dinner. And I will talk to y'all later. Thank y'all for being here. Mwah. Peace.